Zeus is dead. The once mighty god king of the pantheon gods, who had rampaged through the dragon kingdom for several days, finally fell here. And not just fell, his body was completely obliterated, not even bones remained. Zeus had reached the peak of the ultimate Grandmaster realm, just one step away from the land immortal stage. But that final step was like an insurmountable chasm. No matter how powerful or deep his foundation was, in the face of that one step, he had no room to resist. In fact, it was this very step that had trapped Zeus for several decades. So when he learned that Dustin had successfully broken through that realm, Zeus completely collapsed mentally. In the end, he died with hatred in his heart. Phew, it's finally over. Looking at Zeus's shattered remains, Margaret couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Over the past few days, dealing with two god kings had left her mentally and physically exhausted. Because she couldn't show the slightest weakness, she had to rely on her silver tongue to convince both god kings to trust her. What looked simple on the surface was in fact a careful web of calculations, every moment a test of her will. Any sign of fear or hesitation could have resulted in her immediate death. Fortunately, in the end, she succeeded. With her intellect, she bought Dustin enough time to complete his breakthrough, ultimately resolving the crisis. I owe it all to you this time. If not for you, I'd be in serious trouble. Dustin turned to Margaret. Though still inside the cave, his divine sense had already sensed the situation outside. He knew clearly that his success in breaking through and turning the tide was all thanks to Margaret's strategic planning and desperate efforts to stall for time. And in the end, he did not disappoint, rising at the most critical moment to reverse the outcome. We're in the same boat. If you sink, I go down with you. So no need to be so formal. Margaret smiled. Zeus is dead, and Hera is gravely wounded. What's our next move? Dustin asked. Good question. Margaret's expression turned serious. Although the two god kings are dealt with, the pantheon god still has hidden forces entrenched in Stonia. While they're still disoriented, we need to strike fast and wipe them out, root and stem. No problem. From here on, I'll follow your lead. Dustin nodded. By now, his relationship with Margaret had gone beyond cooperation. They were comrades who shared life and death. If she could entrust the fate of the nation and her own life to him, what reason did he have not to trust her? You just broke through. Can your body handle the strain? Margaret asked. No problem. Dustin smiled slightly. Now that I've connected to the power of heaven and earth, as long as spiritual energy flows, I can draw infinite strength. The biggest difference between an ultimate Grandmaster and a land immortal lies in the source of power. An ultimate Grandmaster relies on inner martial chi. The denser and purer it is, the more explosive the power. But once someone reaches the land immortal stage, that limitation is shattered. They no longer rely solely on internal energy, but can directly manipulate the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In other words, a land immortal is one with the world. Every move draws upon the ambient chi, producing power far beyond that of any Grandmaster. That's the true origin of the word. Immortal. At this level, one can no longer be considered a mere mortal, but a being revered among all living things. The only downside? Using too much heavenly energy may trigger heavenly tribulation. Thus, land immortals generally avoid using their full power lightly. The more they act, the greater the chance of attracting heaven's wrath. Luckily, Dustin had just broken through and didn't yet face that danger, unless he encountered another cultivator of the same level and was forced into a large-scale battle. Since you're in good shape, let's strike while the iron is hot and eliminate the remaining threats. Margaret didn't waste words and immediately began issuing orders. She had prepared extensively for this. As long as Dustin merged with the dragon source energy and broke through successfully, she could use this moment to purge Stonia's poisonous forces in one sweep. Her intelligence network spanned the entire nation and had more coverage within the country than any official agency. Whether it was the eldest prince, second prince, third prince, or even the pantheon gods, all were under her surveillance. But in the past, though she could observe, she didn't have enough power to intervene. Every action came with great risk, so she had always remained hidden. Now, things had changed. With Dustin, now a land immortal, on her side, any resistance could be crushed with ease. Not just the pantheon gods, but even hidden enemies operating in the shadows would be targeted. Her goal was simple. Before news of Zeus's death spread too far, use the cover of night to carry out a massive purge of Stonia's underworld. By doing so, she could both eliminate threats and consolidate her own power. So, under Margaret's command, a purge operation led by Dustin was swiftly set in motion. And the entire underworld of Stonia began to tremble.
And just can't accept it. This can't be the end yet. You promised to never leave, and now you're gone. Can't believe I can feel the world slipping away as you slowly fade from my everyday. You promised forever, a love without end, but now I'm left broken, struggling to mend. I thought we were so tied, destined for a lifetime, love with no end, love with no end. Staying in my imagination, memorizing the past time, the secrets, the love, the care. Now they're echoes in the air. I still see your face in every place, feel your warmth, your gentle grace. But now there's just an empty space, and I'm lost in this endless chase, keeping you